Hi there, my name's Mish and I live in Queensland, Brisbane. I'm married and I've got two lovely little children. So I started my life as a graphic designer many years ago in South Africa. My parents basically met up in a place called Durban. They were both immigrants from the Seychelles and from Mauritius. They both spoke French, and they met up, fell in love, and started their lives. It was quite rough for them because neither one of them had support or had their parents or anything around them. They were young; they were in their 20s. My father was a carpenter. And my mother was a dressmaker, and basically they just started doing what they knew how to do. I was the last of 5 children, so I came from a family of 5, and my father worked for the railways at the time, which meant he had to move around quite a lot. So we moved house several times, probably about 6 or 7 times. My parents struggled. I mean, working for the government in South Africa most certainly didn't pay very well, and we lived from hand to mouth. But I feel my parents brought me up with very good values and morals. And growing up in a family of 5 kids, well, that was fun. I learned a lot and very fast. We lived in Johannesburg, which was quite a challenge, and grew up there. And as all the kids grew up and moved on and did their own things, my eldest brother and sister sadly were killed. Things in South Africa were quite challenging in the 80s. And they were killed, which just destroyed my parents completely and absolutely shattered them. I couldn't deal with it, and I moved away. Actually, I went backpacking. I went backpacking in Europe, and I did all the things that kids do. I slept on beaches, did crazy jobs, worked for old ladies, looking after them, washing their knickers, taking dogs for a walk. Doing cleaning jobs, doing all that sort of stuff. And after about a year or so of doing that, I returned to Cape Town and decided to start life all over. I didn't have very much at the time. I was as poor as can be, and all I had was 1 pair of jeans and 2 t-shirts and a pair of sneakers with a huge big hole in it. I'd been trained as a graphic designer. I did an apprenticeship as a graphic designer and thought, well, let me go and get a job in an advertising agency. And I remember walking there one morning, and as I turned the corner, there was the shoe shop, and I had $20 in my pocket. And I stopped and looked and thought, I could spend this $20 on a pair of shoes, or I could spend this $20 on lunch. And if I buy those shoes, I'm going to have to get that job. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to throw caution to the wind. I'm going to buy those shoes, and I'm going to walk in there with my head held high, and I'm going to get that job. And as true as nuts, I did. I bought the shoes. I felt so good, and there was no ways they weren't going to employ me, and I got that job. So I worked as a graphic designer for a couple of years, and then for an ad agency, and then moved on. Got an opportunity in promotions and moved into a promotional job, and moved on. In just a matter of time, I decided to settle down a little bit, so I bought a little house that I thought was absolutely amazing, little 2-bedroom house. Had a bit of work to do. I loved doing renovations. My father had taught me how to do a bit of building and renovating and all that kind of stuff. So I got my hands dirty, got stuck in there and did that. And when he came and had a look at it, he said, yeah, that's okay. It's a good stepping stone. Well, I was shattered. I was absolutely shattered. I thought this was my dream home. This was amazing. Anyway, he was right. It was my stepping stone. From that home, I realized that I could use the collateral in the home and buy another one, which I did. And that was basically the beginning of my property journey. I was 22 at the time. I had started my own business and was working 18 hours a day. I had got married in the interim. We had 2 beautiful little girls, and I was running this business flat out. I never saw my family. I never came home. I was never there. 18 hours a day, flat out. And while doing this, I decided to start a second one to support the first one, and then started a third one to support the second one to support the first one, which all makes sense because it was a manufacturing, clothing manufacturing with screen printing and embroidery. However, I was exhausted. I was wiped out. I was doing everything myself. I was doing the books. I was doing the marketing, the managing. I was training staff. I was bringing people through the channels, growing them from junior to senior staff members. It was exhausting. And one night I got home, and as I got home, I put my briefcase down. I got a phone call to say that there were flames coming out of the factory. Well, I dashed back there. By the time I got there, the flames were 3 times the size, the height of the building itself. I was absolutely shattered. My entire life was going up in front of me. There was nothing we could do about it. Those flames burned for 3 days, and by the time we could get into the building 3 or 4 days later, it was just a black mess. However, I wasn't prepared to give up. We salvaged whatever we could, and we started the business over. Everyone said to me, "You're crazy." Everyone said, "Give it up. Take the insurance money and go and enjoy your life." And I thought, no, I have too many responsibilities. Too many people were depending on this business. I had loads of staff. I had 400 staff members, and they all had families, and their families depended on their income. We couldn't give up, so we carried on. We started the business all over again. A couple of years later, I got attacked. I got held up, and basically I got into a bit of a wrangle with the attacker, and I landed up in a wheelchair. I came off second best. I had to learn how to walk all over again, and then everybody around me said, "Well, that's it. Now she's going to give up." And I said, "No, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep on fighting." And through all the trials and tribulations that I lived through, thank God I had built up a nest egg of something for us to fall back on, because with me in a wheelchair, the business basically took a dive. But thank goodness I had continued to buy property while I was running this business. By that stage, I probably had about 11 or 12 properties, and they were all positive cash flow, and they basically looked after us. Then I got invited to Australia, and I came and I started doing consulting work in Australia, and the company basically said to me, "Hey, why don't you just move to Australia?" And I thought about it, anyway. And then I was sitting in a park, and these 2 little kids came past, and I thought, gee whiz, my kids are never going to have the opportunity to freely be in a park by themselves, to walk through a park. It's just chaos. What am I doing? So I phoned my partner and I said, "Let's move to Australia." I put the application forms in, and by the time I got back to South Africa, the application forms came back, and they said, "You've got 17 days to be in Australia." So I basically packed my bags again and flew back to Australia and started work in the consulting business. But it was total chaos, because we had to wind up everything back in South Africa. I had to think about what to do to liquidate the estate, to get the money over here, and it was just crazy. The money was 1 to 10, which meant that in doing this we lost 90% of our wealth. We basically, in liquidating our estate in South Africa, we lost 90% of our wealth, which just ate me alive. And I thought, well, you know what? I've been through a fire. I've been through a wheelchair. We're just going to start again. And that's basically what we've done, is we've started all over again. And the biggest shock was I found out that I wasn't allowed to have investment properties because of the visa that we were on. So we had to wait it out. And I thought, well, while I'm waiting it out, I'm going to learn as much as I can about the Australian market, because this is the business I want to go into. So I started studying. I did courses. I did every single course I came across. I became a course junkie. Basically, in 3 years, I did every single course that I could about high residentials, about all sorts of different strategies, about flippers, renos, the works. Now, I had quite a lot of experience in renovations, in flippers, in building from the ground, because I'd done quite a lot of that in South Africa while building up the portfolio. And I thought, hey, this is great. And then I discovered commercial and realized that commercial real estate, you can invest. You don't need to wait. You can be a foreigner and invest in commercial in Australia. I thought, yes! So I went headlong into it. And long story short, in 1 year, I bought 3 properties and virtually replaced my income. And it was great. It was like Christmas all over again. The universe was listening to me. And it was a turnkey solution. From the day that I signed that contract, I was earning passive income. The tenants pay the outgoings, they pay the insurances, everything was basically covered, and I'm as happy as can be. I love it so much that I decided I really want to work in this industry. And I met up with Helen Tarrant, who has the clients and just doesn't have the time. She's time poor. And I said, hey, I tell you what, I love this business so much. I want to do this. Let's start a buyer's agency. So that's what we've done. And Helen's got years of experience in training. I've got years of experience in teaching people and educating people from grassroots right into senior positions, because I used to do that in my factory. That's what I love doing most. When people ask me what do I do, I always used to say to them, I take pride in developing people, in helping people get ahead in life. So we've started the buyer's agency and never looked back, as happy as can be. And I hope to be able to help people to grow their portfolio just as fast as what I have. So thank you for listening.